Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to our project presentation for both our geothermal and heat pump project that we have that we're proposing with an upcoming vote. My name is Kcolunio. I have the honor to serve as the Superintendent of Schools here in the South Seneca Central School District. Before we get going, we're going to do some quick introductions of who we have with us up here today.
My name is Josh Bilato. I'm an architect with On Engineers and project manager for the project we'll be presenting.
My name is Gary Henry. I'm a principal and architect with HUM.
And I'm Matt Vincent with Train, and we're the prime contractor for the project.
Yeah, so we have Matt from Train, Gary from HUD, Josh from HUD. We also have Miguel Andrade, our business official. We have Butch Carroll, our Director of Facilities here in the district. And then I see a number of community members, board members, former board member. So we really appreciate you guys coming out today. And really, we appreciate that you're interested in learning more about the project. We're at a time in the life of our buildings right now where we have some needs specifically around heating and cooling. And that's really what led to these projects, or the projects in both locations. Today you're going to hear about the financial piece. You're going to hear a little bit more of the age of our equipment and some of the other things that led to this point tonight.
So we started this effort with a NYSERDA project. So NYSERDA funded a study for us to evaluate all of the mechanical systems in both buildings and identify ways that you could update those systems and do it with a clean heating and cooling theme. So track one of the NYSERDA project was to do an energy analysis of both the buildings, and then also evaluate the age of your infrastructure and what systems would be logical to replace those systems. We recovered, NYSERDA funded $650,000 study for track one, and that covered our energy analysis as well as schematic design of the new systems. And here on this campus, we did a test well for the geothermal system that we were going to recommend. So that was fully funded by NYSERDA. That's paid for out of your utility bill, your rate pay every month goes towards that. Under track two, you take the design from track one and you apply for a competitive grant to NYSERDA for track two. So your project competed against dozens of other projects that were submitted to NYSERDA, and through that effort, you were successful and we were able to secure an award from NYSERDA to help supplement the project to try to make this zero tax impact increase project to the community. And so it's kind of once in a lifetime opportunity. You're going to get a couple $1 million, almost $3 million, about $3 million total between the two, track one and track two, to help this initiative to upgrade all these antiquated mechanical systems across both buildings.
Well, we also don't want you to feel like it was like we made it easy on these guys, because it certainly wasn't. When I got on campus last year in March, I had met with Mr. Zielinski, and he had shared this project with me. And at the time, it did come at an impact initially for the taxpayers. And we kept working together, kept asking these guys to come back and go, the numbers have to be better. And it really helped, us pushing their hand a little bit to say, and they ended up going to the state and say, we need better numbers for these guys to make this happen. And you're going to hear a little bit more about how to do that, but this was, I don't want you to think that don't get me wrong, like we just voted, the board just voted in the first meeting in January to go to referendum, and like this is a very tight timeline. And I don't want it to seem like this tight timeline is because it wasn't thought out. It's actually the opposite, because we said no as a district so many times that it then got to the point where it's like, the money's there, the state is ready to back the project with the energy performance savings that you'll hear about. So this was really well thought out and really has taken a long time to get to this point today.
One thing to add to that too is the district was able to push back to try to get to that zero impact. And it wasn't us looking back at the scope and trying to reduce the scope or reduce the quality. It was working with the state, working with the different agencies to support each other and provide aid that isn't normally needed as a group. Usually you get one or the other. And it was because of those conversations that we still have the same scope, but still we're able to get into that no impact.
Well, there was even a time where we were only looking at possibly doing the open campus, and like we knew that if we were going to provide these, you know, the heating and cooling opportunities to our students to provide that better learning environment, that we really needed to do it across the district. So, you know, the project that you're going to see tonight is really that back and forth, that collaborative effort, you know, to make it to February 23rd and a March 10th vote.
So when we look at what improvements we're going to do across both buildings, we're going to replace the remaining lights that aren't LED already. We're going to convert the rest of them to LED, provide some standardization and some better control. Along with lighting control, we're going to do new mechanical control. So the heating and cooling, where it's available now, is controlled by an antiquated temperature control system, and it's pretty irregular and uneven across the buildings, and so we're going to look at updating that. It's beyond its useful life, and the benefit of this project is with the train products, they come with factory-mounted train controls on them, so it's the most cost-effective way you can buy new temperature controls. And it provides a level of accountability because it's trains the contractor, it's our product, and it's our controls that we're installing. So if there's a problem, there's one phone call to make. And so we're doing new temperature controls. We're also, whenever we do an energy project, we do building envelope improvements, predominantly because, you know, if you've got holes and gaps in your building, it's hard to maintain temperature when you try to do setback at nighttime. And then any places where there's gaps and cracks create drafts, makes people uncomfortable. So we try to, in every energy project that we do, we try to tighten up the buildings and make them, you know, as draft free as possible and as energy efficient as possible. When we go down and look at what we're doing at this Ovid building, we're looking at, you know, about 100 ground source wells that are going to be in the front yard. And those will provide a heat sink for the heat pump system. So we're going to pull energy out of the ground, use that to help heat the building. And then in the summer, the byproduct, we're going to also get pretty close to free cooling out of the ground as well. So it'll allow us the opportunity to have heating and cooling in every classroom space in the building.
Can you guys speak to how the financing needs to go with an energy performance contract?
Yeah. So the way energy performance contracts work is the state requires us that the project pay for itself in 18 years without any building aid. But an energy performance contract is just like every other capital improvement project. It's eligible for building aid. It's just the state requires us to have the savings offset the cost without aid. So the aid comes back through afterwards, just like every other capital project, and that helps offset some of your local tax requirements by bringing in that key, that we're not allowed to count within the performance calculations.
Well, and this also essentially becomes a guarantee that these pieces have to pay for themselves. So the wells, the 100 wells, the efficiency of those 100 wells need to be able to, the return on investment has to pay for itself over those 18 years. And I mean, why don't you tell them how the wells became included? Because I think that's important, because the well field wasn't initially part of the energy savings.
Yeah, so when we did our test well, we monitored the heat sink out of the ground, and we were able to figure out how much energy you're able to pull out of the ground. Traditionally, like a geo system isn't eligible to fit in a performance contract because they're very expensive, and they typically take longer than 18 years to pay back. I contacted, and this is part of trying to make the project be as budget neutral for the community as possible. We were challenged with, hey, how do we make this work? And so I contacted SED and asked, what can we do under the EEC to make this work for the community so that it's not a tax impact? They allowed Train to use the NYSERDA grant funds to buy down the energy performance contract and essentially pay for the well field, and then we could make the 18-year payback requirement. They traditionally don't do that, and there was a special exception for your district to be able to make this project cash flow, because everybody believes in the GEO project, everyone from SED and New York State and NYSERDA and everyone, so.
And just in case you don't know, when you hear a term like SED, it's the State Education Department. So in addition to having an architect and engineer and working with a company like Train, we still have to get all these approvals through state ed, which is what these guys do. These guys actually communicate back and forth with the state ed department. But if you hear acronyms like that, or if there's ever an acronym that you're unsure of, and we don't call it out, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, because we want to make sure you feel informed.
Yeah, like Kyle had said, the energy performance contract has a guarantee that's provided by Train, and on an annual basis, we have to provide a reconciliation report to show how we met the savings, and that those savings are coming back to offset the debt service of the loan to pay for the products.
Thanks.
As mentioned, the geo well system is going to be going into the front yard of the school. I will admit it will be messy in the initial process of the installation, but all the well heads, it's not like your well at your home where it sticks up a couple feet out of the ground. They're all below grade. So once all the wells are installed and the piping is placed, it gets regraded and reseeded. And the idea is that it'll go back to exactly what you see now.
I just learned tonight that the Lodi Library has geothermal under their parking lot. That's the same way that Cayuga Onondaga's system, their BOSI system, it's under their parking lot. With the timing of the project, we just got a brand new parking lot. And we're not at a spot to be tearing up that brand new nice parking lot, all 142 or 143 spaces. So, we had to have a different location that also made sense in its distance to the building.
And Matt had mentioned also that there was one test well that was placed, so that way we did calculations and tuned in. That test well is still in place and will become one of those 100 wells in the end. The idea was, that we wanted it to not just be something that we test and fill in, but something that was permanent to the standards that we wanted it to be.
And we will be working around all the trees, so there won't be any trees impacted in the project.
Thank you. I guess a question.
Yeah.
How long does a well like that last, until it needs to be replaced? And two, what does that look like underneath the ground? I'm a visual person, I'm just curious what you visual with that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so they're like wells at your house. They're vertical wells, so they go down 500 feet. Yeah, and it's
Geothermal.
a 2-inch conduit, it's pretty small.
Okay.
And so it's a vertical well, they'll all be hidden underground. They're gonna be spaced 25 feet on center.
Okay.
And technically, the only time the well field, you would have to do something with a well is if there's some sort of failure, a breach, like it could, if it cracks and sand gets introduced or something. The substrate here is like pretty much solid rock, so you guys are really good and will have excess well capacity, so if there is one that fails, you just valve that one off, and then the rest are fine. All the piping and stuff is rated for 50+ years, so there's not a lot of concern with the longevity of it from the ground.
Can I ask one more visual question?
Yeah.
How does that connect into the building?
So you will,
Or is that upcoming? Right, open up?
No.
We don't have an image of that, no, but
But basically, it's gonna be coming in, to the building, like, if you imagine like a pathway right through here, and then it'll connect into the building in this area.
So, and
Oh, it's
like,
like basement?
Yeah.
The old basement?
because there's 100 to 120 wells, there's not 120 pipes coming into the building.
No, yeah.
It'll go into like a manifold box where those 120s will come into a box. They combine and reduce down to a lesser number. I don't know the exact science on it, but I've heard these guys, we've asked a lot of questions over the time. So, but it comes into that box and then it comes into the building. I was able to go visit the Cayuga Onondaga, BOCES, and I got to see where theirs came in. They have like 20 pipes coming in and one's in, so it's really groups of 10 where it's one is in, one is out. And everything was front and center, easier to service, easy to monitor. Cayuga Onondaga, BOCES, they actually have a train system, which was important to me to go see. You know, I wanted to see, a location that had something similar that we may get, so.
What do you mean by system?
So Train, no, you're good. So Matt is from Train. Train's the
Oh.
is the brand of the units that we'll be getting. So, yeah. So I just wanted to see the same brand, somebody that actually Matt had helped them fix their system. I think it was in 2019. So I wanted to see it. Honestly, they were great. They showed me around. I got to walk between rooms, and it was really nice that the heat footprint, right? Like when I walk from here to the atrium, like I like it in the atrium because it's cooler than in here. But when I walked between the utility rooms into some classrooms, like it was a uniform heat throughout. So that experience, I imagine the student experience where the rooms being the same temperature and a comfortable temperature for our students.
yeah, so we have, our first phase at Cayuga Onondaga BOCES was to repair the geo system. We were ready to abandon it because it wasn't working, and it was all control based. There were a lot of control problems, so we put our control product in, got control of the system, got it working, and we're on we're gonna do phase 6 this summer for BOCES. So we keep doing one wing at a time with new pieces and, new heat pumps and new controls.
Maybe to add to that, it wasn't a train system originally,
No.
and it was having problems, and you had to come in and fix it, right?
Yeah, yes, it was a competitor's controls system, and all the heat pumps were a competitor's product as well.
So
Just one
we're-
more question. Sorry.
That's fine.
Trying to get answers quick. Are we gonna have to tear up what we've done out here to connect that tubing? I know things are covered, I'm just asking.
Like what part? You mean like
The new pavement.
like the loading dock area?
Yeah, or is it gonna be like an underground tunnel thing?
So it'll be a mix. So the concrete work. So there'll be a section removed out of the concrete sidewalk. And then there was a section between that radius new drive and what was the entrance way to that side door. That'll come out. So that didn't get replaced in the previous, but there will be a section that will have to be soft cut and repaired as part of the project. But our goal is to try to stay within the neighborhood spots, not to go
No
through.
underground tunnel.
Underground tunnel sounds really great.
Not good?
I think it sounds great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Love the ones under here.
So for the work that's planned for this building, the classrooms will get controlled with new UVs. So by initial look, it won't.
can you explain what a UV
Yep.
is?
UV is the univentilator. So the unit that's along the wall that currently is producing heat, when we're done, will produce heat during the winter and cold air during the summer, or those end of the school year seasons. And those will get piped into the new geo well. So that's what's going to provide it. The other benefit with our system we're doing what's called a 4-pipe is it allows one side of the building that might be getting a lot of sunlight, and it's going to be a little bit naturally warmer. We'll have the ability to provide cooling for them while at the same time providing heat on the other side of the building that may be naturally cooler just from the sun itself. For the auditorium, library, music suite, we'll be doing the DX coil replacement with coils that are fed from the new chiller. So again, being able to provide both heating and cooling in those areas. We'll be utilizing existing duct mounted coils, but they'll be there to provide some additional heat. The district office will be replaced by a hot water, cold water system. So instead of being its own independent heating and cooling element, it'll be tied into the campus.
I think that's an important thing to note, not because my office is in the district office, but it's like we have so many different separate units. So like for where Mrs. Reynolds and myself are, like we have one AC unit. Where in the business office across the hall, they have a heat pump unit. And they're all a little different, like there's not a lot of uniformity. So, when Matt was saying, about our controls, we have 4 to 5 different types of controls. And what I mean is like the company that controls our thermostat. We have to work with 4 to 5 different companies for all the things to operate, just our different heating units right here between this building, the bus garage, and the interlaking campus. So instead of like going to one spot, Butch and his team have to go to multiple spots. And a lot of those spots, a lot of that programming and the way that they connect to the building are outdated.
Then the last piece is you have your large gym, auditorium, and locker rooms. That was in a more recent project. So due to the state aid requirements, we can't replace those units before they've been technically paid off. So those items will stay in place. Our geo well will be designed to accommodate it in a future project that then we would update those equipment and tie in. The same thing with our principal suite renovations that we did at the main entrance. We utilize what's called an air source system, so it still meets the new green initiative that we're going for. It actually matches up with what we're looking to do at the elementary school. But that'll be its own, it'll be controlled by the same set of controls, but it'll be an air source system versus a geo system.
Well, and so one of the important things in this location, so thinking about the gym was built in 2015, is that correct? So the 15 years of paying that off is 2030. So in a future project, we would be able to add air conditioning to the gym lobby, the locker rooms. But in the meantime, we will be able to add the geothermal heating to those units. So it'll still be on the geo system for its heating, but it just won't have the access to be air conditioned. So when you think about this campus, like this campus will be almost entirely air conditioned, except for the gym lobby, and the locker room. Is that correct? Good. And, yes, Brenda?
Between Mr. Retail and Grace, we're saying to do further on or another time. What is HUNT? What's train? Is train putting in the new, when it's outdated in the gymnasium and the auditorium, does that come over to train or is that through HUNT? And I also like to know later on, so when you're talking about bringing things in like lights and everything, all the air, the pressure things have to come out of the outside walls, is that through HUNT or is that through?
So Hunt is your design professional, or the district's representative that supports the project. Train would be the installer, manufacturer. This project's a little different than a capital project. Part of the NYSERDA process, one of the things that they wanted was essentially a turnkey partnership between the district, design firm, and manufacturer. So that's why this project is a little bit different, where past presentations, Matt and Train or manufacturers, and part of that process is a future bid out situation. This one was a little bit different because it kind of happens as part of the NYSERDA submission, that we have to have a max turnkey price, which is also, which aligns with what the referendum process is with the max price. The difference here is again, turnkey price, so there's no change orders, it's just, that's the price, and that's everything that was submitted to NYSERDA and presented to the district is what you get.
So as part of our competitive solicitation, and part of the reason why we were awarded the funding was, NYSERDA liked the idea that the manufacturer was going to be responsible for the installation and also be responsible for the performance of the project, later. So they've had other projects that were less successful where it was bid out and then it goes over bid and then you get a low bid contractor and then it doesn't perform well. So that was one of the reasons why we won against other projects was we proposed it as a turnkey project delivered by trained manufacturer with accountability for installation and performance and price and everything.
Yep.
The envelope, tightening the envelope, is that like windows replacement?
So it doesn't get into a replacement of windows, but what it does is it's tightening up, sealing up. So if you get above ceilings, sometimes where the roof structure meets the outside wall isn't a perfectly tight fit, so there's air that comes through, so it's sealing those up with insulation. It's at doorways. Sometimes if you look at an exterior door, you can see daylight, through the door. It's correcting those kind of situations to provide a tighter, minimal draft.
It could be caulking around the windows as well to tighten up any air leakage, but we're not looking to replace.
And actually, another big area that I'm going through this is the univents that will be installing. There's actually a gasket between the univent and the outside. So like when you walk around the building, you see the vents. And so, am I correct on that? Okay. There's like a gasket between for where it brings in air from the outside. And a lot of times over time, those shrink up. They kind of fail. And that ends up being an area that an energy performance project would. When they install the new univent with the new gasket, that prevents some of that air coming in as well.
Okay, but most of the classrooms would have to have what is currently in them ripped out, correct?
For the unit
All of them are coming out.
Right.
Yes.
So there is destruction of all the classrooms, but you're doing it in sections? Is this what you're
Yeah.
It would be
And we're gonna do it over the summer.
as much as we can in the summer. But during the school year, we'll be facing, there might be, 3 to 4 classrooms for a week. The kids will come out, we'll go in, do the work, turn it back over, kids will occupy that, and we'll do 2 or 3, 4 other classrooms. So we'll be phasing it like that. So we're not looking for long-term displacement of kids in any classroom. It would be more of a short-term, week at a time process as we work through the school year.
And that is consistent from elementary through high school. Because like, it's not like that just needs to happen in one building, that would happen in both buildings. Which I think is important, One thing about this project, like if you put new siding on your house, your neighbors notice, right? Like they're like, hey, I love that new siding. But when you replace your furnace, you spend all that money and nobody compliments that you did something new, right? Aside from tearing up the front yard and then replacing it as good as new, there's somebody driving by is not gonna know that something's going on to really increase the student experience, right? Because I think if you were to talk to any students, current students, and we had some speak up at our board meeting where they presented, right now we have, either in the cold weather, I mean, my office was 58 degrees a couple weeks ago in that cold weather. And then in the hot weather, it fluctuates, up into those warm temperatures to where the governor has put in the extreme heat, policy or law. And where we now have a policy on, how we have to engage our students at different temperatures, where we might have to move them to a cooler space. So while you can't see this project really on a day-to-day, you could, guests and students will be able to feel it.
Will these jobs happen simultaneously, like 2 teams, one at elementary and one at middle school, high school at the same time?
Yeah, and we're working on the schedule now. I mean, the next step for us is to get through the referendum. And then we're working, the district has a construction management firm, CMS, who's part of our partnership. They're gonna help us with scheduling and phasing that work. Once we have a positive referendum, then we can get to work on that one in the schedule. And, the next step after the referendum is to submit it to the state for approval, review and approval. And that takes a few months to get approval on it as well. So all of those things, that timing really dictates the schedule and how we'll do it. But it will most likely take place over, 2 summers.
What you'll probably see, we'll touch on it a little bit, but the work outside, so those geothermal fields, that'll be the first thing you see. The goal is for those to be this summer, and the initial mechanical, you have boilers, like central boiler plant now, you'll have a central geothermal plant concept. The idea is that we'll get those in place quickly, and then that allows us to start downloading around the campus and attaching.
Yeah, so that central plant will be installed, primarily would be installed this summer with the geo system. And then we would work on a basic piping infrastructure as much as we can get done in the first summer, so that later, if we wanted to do some classrooms, we could pick up, the piping would be routed through the corridor when nobody's here, and then we can just tap into those pipes one room at a time as needed, if we wanted to do some work during the school year.
The pipe going to the ceiling?
It's going, it's going above the ceiling and then below the floor in the basement areas and pipe chase areas that you have currently.
And what just said a little while ago, this project over 2 summers, from start to finish. We're looking at 2 years, 3 years, 3 years.
Yeah, right now we're looking at closing out in December of 27, yeah, 27.
which is closer to a year and a half.
Is there going to be a definite drop dead performance guarantee where it's done? I know I've been involved in a lot of municipal projects and I'm dealing with the school. It just seems like capital projects start and they just drag on and we keep missing deadlines. Is there going to be a drop dead in 2 years it will be done or else it's going to be a performance penalty?
So, any construction contracts and stuff, there's always some legal language around, performance of the work and how quickly it's done. Your attorneys are, on your behalf, are negotiating that with training and your professional service partners, but yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be in agreement on what the schedule is and how it'll be completed. It's not completely defined at the moment, but yes, there will be a requirement.
Getting complete by that date is also kind of a milestone to start receiving the aid from the state. So that's one of the key reasons why we have kind of December 27th, excuse me, as completion. Yep.
Another question, after everything is all set and done, all over with, everything is running fine, I'm assuming this is going to require maintenance, regular maintenance. Who's going to be doing that maintenance? And how do we have to get a contract for it every year? Is it can be
So
done at the local? Will train be doing the maintenance? What can?
So the project is going to include 5 years worth of maintenance in the cost of it. That'll be included as part of everything that Trane provides. All Trane branded products will have a 5-year parts and labor warranty on them. And then we're going to include a service on those products for the first 5 years. We've talked with Butch and we understand how much you're spending on controls maintenance and boiler maintenance and those things now. The new systems will require less maintenance than the old systems.
So you currently have contracts in place right now for the systems you have. So we would just be getting rid of those, probably think of a different contract. Yeah, so I don't think that there's going to be any necessary savings. There might be, but we've got contracts right now with like 3 or 4 different companies to manage the systems you have. Where once we're all done with this, it could just be one.
Yeah, and it can be trained. We can do the mechanical service and service it in the future beyond, once it's out of the 5-year warranty, if you want to shop it around, you can. But, our control system, we in a lot of our products, it would make a lot of sense to do more service with us, but it's up to the district on how to move forward on that one.
And there will be training, just like other projects that we've had, but there is always, anything that's a new product, there's a requirement of training to provide to Butch and his team. That would also get them generally accustomed to the equipment. Obviously, it's a much different world of equipment than what they're previously used to, but we would work with their team to make sure that they feel comfortable with the day-to-day running of it. Obviously, Trane would be there to support if there's anything bigger or yearly maintenance and those kind of items, but at least on the day operation, we want the district to feel comfortable.
I assume they'll need to be trained and certified, correct?
No certifications required, but, and what we tried to do with the system is, the system's going to have similar components that we have now, and the difference will be in the central plant, like the boiler plant is going to be the difference. So everything in the classroom level is going to be similar to what Butch and his team work on now, and they'll have familiarity. And then the central plant is something that will require some additional training for his team. There'll be a new system of geo-based system that they have.
When we're talking about the OBIT campus, you just mentioned about the central boiler plant. So one of the reasons for this is our current boiler systems are aging. They're at the end of their lifespan. They're 100% fuel oil right now over electric with a propane, ignition. Can you speak to what a backup is going to look like in this situation? Because we just experienced 3 weeks of sub-zero weather. I don't know if you guys felt it. I mean, I felt it both like the chilliness, but I had pipes burst on my own property. So, what does that look like as a backup system to ensure that we can keep up with the coldest of cold temperatures?
So, some thought is being put into how big you make the well field. And then we have requirements by the state to have redundancy. So every school that you go to, you don't have just one boiler, you have 2 or 3 boilers. And down here we have 4 boilers. So what we're looking at is, just like you have an emergency generator that's diesel, your emergency backup is going to be your existing boiler plant. And so the one boiler that is the newest, we're going to revitalize it. We'll put new controls on it, new burner on it, go through the boiler, make sure that it's a very reliable backup. In case of emergency, you'll always have the fuel oil to as backup and prevent freeze up. But primarily we'll have multiple levels of redundancy in our new system, as well as the well field will have excess capacity in it to support the building.
Basically maintaining one of your fuel oil boilers is kind of a backup to backup. We really don't expect it to be used at all. But we are using one there connected to the system we have. I don't think they'll ever have to buy fuel oil again. This makes me say it's going to be more than enough to run that thing for a long time.
Well, and one of the considerations, I think it's important to know, we're getting away from fuel oil. We said, why aren't we getting 100% away from fuel oil? Part of that answer is the stress and the possible financial burden of removing a fuel oil tank. Because it's in the ground, it would be right out here. You'll see the bush with the little concrete pad with the what is that, an access panel? Under there, in the ground, is the current fuel oil tank. If we were to remove it and something were to happen, where it broke and it goes into the ground, that is millions of dollars. So where it wouldn't really do, this project would no longer make sense. So the fuel oil tank is still a good tank. We're able to keep it in place and really upgrade the controls and the internals on our current setup, essentially making it as close to new as we could with one of these units. But it allows us to have a backup that we're really familiar with, right? It's also, it's not necessarily learning a brand new piece of equipment, which does serve our facilities department a little better.
That's the same as Interlogan?
It's a great question. What's that?
Is that the same in Interlogan as that building?
Yeah, so at Interlaken, we're not doing a geo system where we're gonna have ground wells.
Okay.
We're doing an air source heat pump system. So it pulls the energy from the air instead of the ground to generate heating and cooling.
Sorry, I jumped in.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
And one of the reasons why we did do it a little bit differently, 5 years ago, there was a federal fund that came out right around COVID to try to improve air quality inside the spaces to make it more a healthy building. So we referenced that as an ESSERS project, and that was just the funding. And what we had done is we utilized the school's ESSERS funds to add cooling to the second floor of the elementary building. So because we made that investment a few years back, we didn't want to tear it all out, do a geo system. So what we're going to do there is we're going to expand from that project, since we have the second floor. Basically, all the classrooms on the second floor are done. We still have to do work for like the larger spaces. But what that allows us to do is kind of build upon that project that was approved by the community. So what'll happen is air source system, which is similar to what we did for the bus garage and for the what we're calling the principal suite secure entrance at this building. We'll expand that system to capture the rest of the building.
And have the oil boiler stay in place
Right.
as backup as well.
I did have one other question that had maybe backed off. That was a great question. How is it powered?
With electricity.
Okay. Are there any concerns about, or have we looked into, because I know from the village level, town level, right, Joe, exactly. There are some concerns that we're looking to revitalize the block that burned. One of the things we ran into is the lack of electricity and power here in the village. Are you guys aware of that, or?
Yeah, so there would be a new service that would come in for that. And so part of this project saves energy, so the lighting will be a pretty dramatic reduction in electrical. Looking at this building alone, we're going to drop about 100 kW of load just for the lighting and other improvements that we're going to do. Then we're going to pick load back up when we switch over to the Geo, and because that's an electric-based system. So it's not, 1 minus 1 is 0, it's like 1 minus half is half again. So we're gonna shed some load, but then we're gonna add load. So it's not.
Sorry, this is personally for us to know. Any idea about what percentage use will be needed to increase for specifically this building's facility? Sorry, thank you. For this facility for the town of COVID.
Yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we have a detailed study that was done and calculates exactly how much electricity it's worth, how much it will take to power it. And that's part of our submission to the state as well. It'll all be vetted by the state for, how much energy the new system will use versus the old system. And part of it next week.
Thank you.
So for the Interlaken campus, to touch on the schedule a little bit, so that first summer's work here was going to do the geo well and some of the energy performance scope, so the lighting, some of the air sealing. At the elementary, the first summer would be just that EPC work. So the lighting, the improvements to the buildings envelope, those kind of things will be that first milestone that we'll be working on. So for the project, we did our initial board presentation back in December. We did a follow-up. So we did a follow-up to the board and the community. That's what initiated the project with a vote date. And the secret process was in January. We're doing the public presentation today. We're going to follow up with some presentations to the faculty and staff next week. You have your vote on March 10th. Because of the Track 1 funding captured some of the design costs, that's allowing us to be doing the design work currently. So in a traditional project, we'd have the vote, everybody votes yes, and then we would start the design process after that. Because the NYSERDA is funding a portion of that design work, it's allowing us to jump ahead, and then that's what's giving us the potential of work this summer versus not starting anything until next summer. So in April, the idea is that we would be submitting the energy performance contract project, so we break it into individual projects to submit. So the energy performance contracts will get submitted to the state for approval. And then EPC construction has the potential of beginning in May. That obviously will depend on what we can have access to and things like that with the school. Followed by in around June that we'd be submitting to SED for the NYSERDA project. So that's the remainder of the work. And the idea there is that we'll have, approval and then be able to start some of the construction towards mid to end of summer. And again, one of the benefits of moving the GeoWell system into the EPC is that it frees up more of the summer potential of getting work started sooner. And then with a goal of December of 2027 for substantial completion.
So you're going to begin drilling the wells in May?
It would be, it says that we should have the ability because we should have SED approval by May. We would then work with the district to coordinate between what's available for space and obviously not impactful to the students. We probably wouldn't start drilling the wells until school's out.
They can start the day after graduation.
Right. We don't want to cause too much of anything that up the windows.
So it's a pretty commonplace in an energy performance contract for us to start the lighting and building envelope improvements, and then we could also start like running the piping in the basement and crawl spaces and such. Most of the time, our lighting contractors like to work after hours because they have the buildings to themselves, and they don't necessarily like to work over the summer because every other school is trying to do work over the summer. So it typically helps all of us to get a good price on the lighting work by allowing them to start, in May, if it comes out at a time.
Like working second shift, starting at 3 o'clock and working into the evening.
Yep.
I guess as a board member, I guess it was unclear to me, I don't know if the other board members here. So you're saying the piping that comes in, is this all converging into the north basement out here? And that's where, what do you call those, vents or whatever, it comes into some, what do you put in there? What are you connecting to?
Yeah, so it'll
And how
be-
big is that, and how do you get in there? 'Cause I've been in that basement, it's hard to get in.
Yeah, it will require some it'll require some drama, moving some drama.
I was just gonna say that. Like, you need a couple bands.
So
Take stuff out.
there'll be some cleanup and some moving stuff around to be able to utilize that space, but we are planning, as Josh had mentioned earlier, we'll be planning to cut a hole in the side of the wall from the exterior. There's a window there now. We'll open that up so we can bring the units in from outside.
It would be the basement access, not.
Yeah. So if you're standing at the loading dock, looking at the loading dock, to your left, there's a window, and in that area is where we would open that wall. Yeah. and we
So
would-
the trauma's moving out of the basement?
No, everybody has to.
Wait a minute.
So this is just a quick visual. So the green was our initial seeker process. So that was when we presented to the board. They had their intent to be the agency. We sent it out for a month to other agencies to see if they had interest in being the lead agent. There wasn't any interest. So then that was part of that January board meeting where they approved the project, approved the seeker results, and the project date. The blue area is just a visual of the time requirement for public presentation, public notice. So right after that board meeting is why, we saw the presentation go up onto the website. There's a newspaper submission to explain the project, and then doing these public presentations. With the 10th being the public vote, and then the 11th is a board meeting, and that would allow the board members to approve the results of the vote.
Want to get to talk about how much this is going to cost. So the total project cost of this is $36.75 million. And this is coming with no additional tax increase to the taxpayers in the community. The district is putting up $655,000 of capital reserve to help make this a no tax impact. And then the remaining $36,095,000 is coming from a combination of the NYSERDA funds, energy savings, and the building aid. So if we can.
And building aid, because we'll get money back on it. So I think something important to talk about when we talk about like the money that the district's coming out in our capital reserve. The capital reserve can be used for specific things. A building project is one of those specific things. Miguel, is there anything else that a capital reserve can be used for?
Just capital
Or just capital projects? So this, by using that money in this situation, it actually allows us to bring it at no additional tax impact to the community.
And if I'm correct, we're not even using all of the money we have. in capital reserve.
no, we're not
Okay, so the district still has capital reserve funds available for this project. Is what we got. So real quick, to kind of go through the numbers. Track 1, as Matt had mentioned, was $650,000. That was no cost to the district at all. And that comes to do the design, we did the test well, and a few other things, and submitting on behalf of the district for the track 2. Track 2 is split into 2 pieces. Kind of the total track 2 that we received is a combination of both of these, but we are using $2,450,000 plus for the EPC. As Matt mentioned earlier, that's the offset cost of the EPC to make it be able to be paid for in the 18-year payback time frame. The remainder of the track 2 funds is going to the rest of the capital project. Talk about the capital reserve, energy savings. So by doing the geothermal and it's just the geothermal, does not include the air source heat pumps at the elementary school. This is just the geothermal system. Generates almost $3 million worth of energy savings over, I believe it's the 18-year period. And then building aid, which is the lion's share of this, is over $29 million. Okay, so the state is aiding this. A couple things that helped this to work is every district has what they call maximum cost allowance. And that's for construction. There's 2 pots of money. One's construction and one's incidental. And incidental deals with site work. We're paying for architects and engineers and construction managers and financial advisors. The SED has agreed that the NYSERDA funds would not go towards the maximum cost allowance. Okay, so that's almost $3 million that we don't have to account for basically against the state's calculation. And then again, the state allowing us to use the track 2 funds to help offset the EPC is kind of the last thing that made this work for us. Their agreement to do that was a really big piece. Looking at the expenses of where this money is going to end up going, here at the high school, a little over $18 million is going towards that. It's going to be a little bit more than that because the EPC helps cover that as well. But the general upgrade to all mechanical systems is going to be a little over $18 million. At the elementary school, it's $12 million to upgrade all mechanical units there. And then the EPC is a little over $6 million. And again, that's primarily going to be here at the high school with the geothermal system, but there will be some elementary school as well. So if there's questions on any of that, I will do my best. I'm not the financial advisor, they couldn't be here tonight, but I will try to answer.
So without the $2.4 million, what would the payback period be? Like, you're talking about 18 years, what
Oh,
they weren't
for the
doing
geothermal
that-
system?
Yeah, they weren't doing that 2.4 million, would it ever pay itself back, or?
It would be almost double, it'd be, 30 plus year payback without the NYSERDA subsidy.
And those savings are calculated on current electric rates, not future electric rates? You know, electric
Yeah,
rates
so
go up,
we-
go up, go up.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a challenge. The cost of oil, so SED and the State Education Department requires us to use historical data, so we use a 2-year energy baseline. As the price of energy goes up in the future, you'll always be subject to those price increases, regardless of whether it's oil or electric. The benefit to the Geo project is you're pulling a lot of energy out of the ground. Every bit of energy that you save makes you less vulnerable to what the market price does in the future. And it's absolutely the most efficient way you can heat the buildings.
Your current fuel oil system is about 85% efficient. It's probably right now, probably 75, based on the age of it, it's probably closer to 75% efficient. The geothermal system, when installed and operating, is going to be over 400% efficient.
What was that number again? The
Over
efficiency, 88 and,
So the fuel oil system is probably, based on the age, is probably closer to 75 to 80% efficient. The geothermal system is going to be 400+% efficient.
So the way that works is because you're pulling the energy out of the ground, a heat pump system operates off of a coefficient of performance. So every bit of energy, it measures how much energy you put in and how much energy you get out. Because we're pulling energy out of the ground, it's free energy, so it's like, it's magic, right? You're getting more out of it than what you're putting in. And so a typical COP, or coefficient of performance for a geo system, is about 4, which correlates to about 400%, where the existing heating plant is about a 0.75, so it's far less than 1. If you were to go into the boiler plant here today, you would want to shed layers because all the heat that's wasting is overheating the space and going out the roof. And then you might still find cold spots in the building. So that's the difference between the two systems. One is leveraging energy from the ground to help heat and cool, and the other is just burning oil.
So really what you're paying for is the pumps. Pump the water into the ground. So you pump the hot water in the ground and it comes out cold, or you're pumping cold water into the ground and it comes out hot. So that's how, and then the system, they put in the plant, central plant, condenses that. Be more efficient.
where's the water coming?
It's inside the system, so it's a closed loop system. It's not like your tap constantly pulling water out of the ground. It's you start with a gallon in the system and you end with a gallon in the system. It just stays inside the system.
So once we feel about that it's full of the water, it's a gallon of water pump on.
It's what I call,
Pump
yeah.
on system.
Where's the heat source in this room?
The heat source in this room, it
Fuel
comes,
oil.
yeah, from the fuel oil. It's a hot water loop, fuel oil system.
It's under the concrete?
Yeah,
No,
so if you look up, you
Is that in the
have
ceiling?
your
Flow and air.
Yeah.
There's, you got the boilers, it's pumping or piping water, hot water to a unit that blows air across the coil to heat the air, and then that air gets pushed through like vents of the ceiling to heat the room. But it's similar in the classrooms with the unit ventilator, except that's pumping the hot water to the unit ventilator. The unit ventilator has the coil in it blowing the air.
You talked about the life expectancy of the pipes, but not the life expectancy of the pumps and stuff. Is that?
So those are all, and that's part of the requirement of performance contract, is that the products that you install, you can't count savings for something that, for longer than its useful life. So SED intentionally set that parameter of 18 years because they know that predominantly the systems we install are about a 25-year useful life. And so in general, they'll be about 25 years as useful life, but you have lighting in the building that's 30, 40 years old. You have boilers that are in excess of 30 years old now. And so the products will have a useful life that is better than the products you have in place now. But that's typically industry standard. It's about 25 years.
With the EPC, you have to guarantee it right here.
We have to guarantee it for 18 years. It doesn't, you'll still have maintenance requirements on that, on those products, and it's not a warranty for the unit itself for 25 years. We're not gonna, have a bumper-to-bumper warranty on it for 25 years. You'll still have maintenance that you have to do on it, but the energy savings are guaranteed for 18 years.
Have you guys had a chance to install anything like this in any other rural or school districts?
So we've done the air source stuff that's at the elementary school. We've been part of projects to repair geothermal systems. Train as a manufacturer has installed systems like this. Like we have a system like this at Fort Drum, where it has a ground well and a central plant that pulls energy and injects energy to the ground. I don't have any school jobs locally. Train has school jobs all over the U.S. where we've done geo, but nothing
Is it
specific.
mostly businesses across New York right now, or not just?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the majority of the geo stuff is probably like residential. Homeowners make the investment, but it's hard to get the investment from the state agencies.
Without the NYSERDA funds, and again, this being a unique project where, I don't think we touched on it, but normally if you have a project, the school gets 81 cents for every dollar spent on a project. But if you were to get 3 to 4 million from NYSERDA, the state will give you your 81 cents on everything but the money that you're getting from NYSERDA. And this time around, they were very upfront and clear on this one that they wanted to support this initiative. So you're getting the 4 million from NYSERDA, and then you're getting an additional 81% of that again in aid. And that's what makes it a more, I don't want to say acceptable time to get the geothermal, but it definitely becomes a more affordable option. Where traditionally, if you were to do a capital project and all we were doing was a geothermal well, it would be hard to get the public's, support, because normally in a capital project conversation, we're more, it's kind of trying to get that mix of educational space and mechanical improvements. It's not typically just by itself a mechanical project.
Could you, I know this came up at our board meeting when we were discussing this, but could you talk about what would happen if we don't do this project now? What would happen, with the existing systems in the 2 schools, and like what's the alternative to doing this?
So most of the existing mechanical systems in both buildings are beyond their useful life. I think Bush can probably attest to the fact he's been patching and repairing unit ventilators continuously. So if we weren't to get this project and this money from NYSERDA, I don't think the district would be able to do a wholesale replacement like this in one shot. It would end up being multiple projects, potentially 3 projects, and those 3 projects would have to be spread out over 3, 4 to 5 years apart from each other. So you'd be looking at units that could be failed by the time we get to the point where you can actually have a project to address it. So this really is, I mean, the state, I've never seen the state put this kind of money into these types of projects ever. So all of the concessions that we made to get this done would be great. I mean, I think the district really stands to capitalize and come up with a system that's going to serve them for a long time.
Here, I just want to clarify, when you say, 3 to 4 projects, 3 to 5 years apart, that's really like 10 to 15 years of projects that it would take to replace the same amount, which I think that's actually on the next slide.
And they most likely would come with tax increases.
Volume and cost increases, right? Like if you bought something a year ago, if you tried to buy the same thing right now, you're going to pay more money. So by doing this, all at once, it does create a savings in the amount that we would actually spend on the projects over that 15-year term.
One thing too that we didn't really touch on that plays into this conversation, as Gary mentioned, it would be essentially 3 rounds of referendums. And this project captures all your mechanical systems, but at the same time, you still have the option or potential of your next plan, I don't want to say plan, your next available referendum that would be due to a financial drop-off of a previous loan would be in 2028, 29, I think it was. And this project doesn't affect that. So that still allows you to have academic renovation project, and not have to worry about locking away more than half of your future referendums towards mechanical improvements.
Yeah, another question that would you have? Here's what you have on the board now, and what we're going to expect the taxpayers to vote on in the month. Is that what you initially proposed, or were cuts made?
There was no cuts. So what I touched on earlier is when the districts, when we initially got approved by NYSERDA, and we did the math with the financial advisor, there was a tax impact. And what we had done is worked with NYSERDA, SED, to get essentially them to look at things a little bit differently, and approve more. One of the things that came out of it was typically you wouldn't put a geothermal field into an EPC, which then allows you to gain on the savings from the guarantee. And that was an SED suggestion, is to utilize the funds, some of the funds from the NYSERDA grant, which again is in the normal process for EPC, but they recommended that we use some of the funds of the NYSERDA to offset and break down within that payment plan, that they require. But what that did was, instead of maybe 900,000 of energy savings over that 15 years, you're seeing almost 3 million. So it's that energy savings and the guaranteed energy savings and the aid that we're receiving for the project on itself that's allowing us to basically reduce what would be normally if we were to go to the public with an increase. That's what's offsetting that increase over the time.
That 8%, the 2.9 million of energy savings over it's over 15 years, because that's how long you're gonna borrow the money for. That would have been about half of that, and that, so, about, 1.45 million is helping offset your local share, so it doesn't become a tax increase for you.
So
And basically what I was I guess what I'm kind of looking at, this stuff is supposed to be state of the art. The last, let's say, 18 years. We're not looking at the whole bid.
Right.
Correct. So one of the things that, when I started last March, the financial documents show, and the conversations were around, for the life of the project, it was no tax impact. But when you actually looked at the numbers, there was a tax impact in the first couple of years, which is what they were talking about. And over the life of it, the no tax impact was because of, these potential federal tax credits. In our conversations, we're like, we don't want to rely on any of that, right? Like, we're seeing parts of the federal government go away. We're like, we don't feel like that's a credible thing to rely on right now. So that was kind of what sparked the conversation. So these financial numbers do look different. But when they went to bat and talked to the state, like, this is no additional tax impact from start to finish. We still may end up getting some of those federal tax credits at a much lower rate, but those would be able to go back in to replenish our capital reserve. So it's really, they've stepped up and they talked to state ed to come to these figures, which are much, much different than the beginning. But the best part is the scope of the work hasn't changed at all. This has been the consistent amount of work since last March when I first got introduced to the project.
And this is a standalone project. There's nothing else tied to this. So in other words, you can have the monies for the geothermal project, but you've got to build this building here to build.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is the
I've
project.
been caught in that before.
There's no bike shed in this.
We had an old auditorium. We had an old auditorium. But they wanted the new gym. Okay. Now, to get the new gym, that they wanted a standalone project, they had to build this auditorium. So they redid the auditorium, and put new seats and everything into it. And they couldn't get the monies for the gym if they didn't do the auditorium. Well, they did the auditorium and that little bit. They put in seating and everything else on it. What it was out of date the day they installed it. It's tore the stuff and destroyed it. We now have a very nice building, of course, but that's what I'm getting at. We had to have something else to get the state aid.
And that's a really great question. And I think the historical perspective is a good one here. But there is no low bid. I mean, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I don't think Train would come in at the low bid.
Right.
But with this project, it's because it's packaged with NYSERDA and it was an application process through it. Like it kind of had to be packaged for it to happen. So the package is already there. The package of doing both buildings, doing the envelope work, the lighting, and then the new heating and air conditioning.
So we do bid the work under us, so we have, we solicit bids from multiple mechanical contractors and multiple electrical contractors. The difference is the price that I require from my subs is a fixed price. I'm giving you a fixed price for the job. My subs are required to give me a fixed price, no change order as well. So when they look at the drawing set and they price out the job, they don't look at like, hey, where can I get away with not covering something and then get a change order later and ask for more money later. They know that they have to provide me a complete project. And so there will be some unforeseen things that we'll have to cover that are figured into a contingency. But for the most part, our subs are working under a no change order mindset as well. So if they go through the plans, the scope that Train writes for the sub, and they go through the HUD drawings and there's something missing, they come back to us immediately and we're like, hey, what about this? Do we need this extra valve? And we say, yeah, we do, we need it. And so carry that in your price. And so that's the difference between this process is it's fixed price, no change order. all the subs are pricing it to provide a complete project of the highest quality. And so there is competitive process under that where we have multiple mechanicals, multiple electricals, and GCs pricing it. So you know you're not being gouged, but it is for a defined scope that is a complete project.
And, you know, a big question is why now, right? One of the big things is the money is available, right? Like we've been awarded it, it's available to us, it's right in front of us. But I don't think that's the best reason, right? Like it's a reason. I think if we really look at what is important here in the district, that is the student experience and the staff experience. When we're looking at this, if you've ever been on the second floor of this building, or not the second floor of Interlake anymore, because they're all air conditioned, but if you go down to that second grade wing in the fall, when we still get those hot days, or you get them in the spring, those June hot days, those kids are roasting. The governor's even come out, you know, pass legislation around, you know, once it gets to, I think it's 82 degrees, we have to move them. Once it gets to 88 degrees in a space, they no longer can be there at all. You know, and it give us specific ways that we have to measure the temperature from the center of the room. And that impacts the student experience. I was a teacher for 15 years. I taught in a brick building with a south-facing window. I would have to open my windows when I get there at 7:30, 8 o'clock. As soon as it got to 10, I'd shut the window, pull the blinds, and we would do this song and dance, just trying to keep it to be bearable. This is what we're experiencing in our buildings with that student experience. I actually got to speak with the middle school student government class recently, or student government, it's not a class, but a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and we got talking about the project. And they asked great questions. They said, first they told me about their student experience. They said, it is so hot or so cold. There's certain spaces that with the aging HVAC units that we currently have, that it isn't a great learning environment. We had our student board rep it was actually when they presented at the January meeting. And she said, oh my goodness, like I'm freezing in the winter and I'm so hot in the summer. And she's experienced, you know, each building is, you know, she's a 10th grader now. These spaces, the why on why now, is to enhance our student experience. And by, you know, the completion date of December 2027, like there's students in high school right now that will have this experience, and then the whole remainder of our district. So I would say pre-K through 9th grade will definitely experience the benefits of this. But the other part is we have aging mechanical systems. Over Christmas break, we had a classroom. The teacher was in over the weekend to feed her animals. It's our ag classroom. And in that ag classroom, there is the biggest rabbit I've ever seen. That's besides the point. It is huge. But it was like the Rainforest Cafe in there because one of the heating coils of the hot water burst, and we had 500 gallons of water for our facilities team to clean up. It's an aging system, and that was a unit that that we had to bring somebody in to repair the coils a year ago. So these are items that are kind of, they're at that end of their useful life cycle to where we need to do something, and this is a possibility of what that something could be. I think we covered all of these things. Does anybody else have any additional questions? I think Ellen probably has a few more. Yeah, go ahead.
March 10th is 2 weeks away.
Yes,
You've got 20 voters here.
probably not even, yeah.
I think most of you are school board.
There's a lot,
Three of us are.
there's a lot of people associated with the district in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing to get the word out? I didn't know about this project till I got here.
So the next week's shopper will have a front and back one page about the project. They'll have a letter from me with some questions. So this will be posted, this presentation, we're recording it, it'll be posted to social media, likely tomorrow, because it'll take a little bit to upload. We have the presentation accessible right on our website, sent out an email with some information. Obviously, it's not all of it. If there's another spot, I'm willing to do this song and dance.
Put your boards at the both
Yeah.
offices, right?
Yep, so we have 2 sets of these boards. Those will be at both there will be a set at both buildings as of tomorrow. If you have an idea of another spot, I am happy to do the road show and the song and dance.
What is you're holding?
Oh, this?
It's just this.
It's this presentation, this is accessible right on our website.
Okay, what about something that I can take and put at the library?
Yeah.
I would like to hand it out at the food pantry.
Can I print some and bring them to you tomorrow?
Perfect.
All right, we'll do
But
that.
I think that people need to know about this. I mean, this is a fantastic opportunity. And we ought to get the word out. And if any of you can get to the Lodi Library and check out that system, we're terribly impressed with how it functions. It's been almost 10 years that we've had it. Go down and ask some questions, and anybody who's questioning geothermal, there it is.
Yeah,
Operating.
and that's why I personally went out to Cave Onondaga-Bosse's. I actually went with our construction manager, because that one is on that larger scale, and I knew there was a trained system currently in there. I even tried to ask them to give me some negatives about it. I said, come on, what's not working? What's not going well? And they were so happy with it. I tried. I told these guys that too, so.
Kyle, when is it coming out, the shopper?
Next week, we should be.
So that's a partial week before the vote.
Shelley
We
said.
haven't been
she's-
getting mail in Lodi, so that's
Oh,
another
jeez.
issue, but hopefully.
Do I need to do the mail?
Better.
The
We've
other
been
thing-
getting intermittent mail, so,
the other
just
thing
as
I-
long as there's like a few days. I think it comes on Wednesday. The
Okay.
vote is the vote on Monday or?
It's the next Tuesday,
Okay,
the
Tuesday.
10th.
We are counting on you folks to share the message too, bring a friend to vote, bring 2, bring 5 friends, you know. It's kind of hard. These things, Butch was joking about the over-under on how many people thought would come out. 'Cause especially stuff that's not very hugely controversial, it's a building project. But we do need to count on you to share the message and get your friends and people to come vote. It's only so much you can do online and with flyers and stuff.
And we'll be directly-
What is your thought about this project?
So far, everything that, all the meetings I've sat in, and I've been with Matt, and we did a lot of touring last week, and we asked a lot of questions, and everything that he's shown me and discussed with me has been exactly what we're looking for. Our system is definitely needing the upgrade. This is our opportunity that I think we should take advantage of.
Are you nervous?
With,
Having to learn all the system?
Not really. I think it's gonna be more user friendly than what we have now,
Absolutely.
right?
At this point, everything needs to be put in print and mailers. You can't beat the shopper. It covers everyone in our district and other districts. Our district, that's townships. When you say, I'm going to do that in Parent Square or on our website, there are a lot of mature people, I won't call them old, but they're people that, frequent,
You're old.
If you don't have students or grandkids or whatever, you're not going to sell them, we check out what's going on, it's Seneca, you just don't do it. And for the most part, the people that come in are middle-aged to older people, taxpayers, I've been here many years, from being young to what I am now. And it's older people, it's not the young people. So we have to push it out in print. Push it in print.
There are a number of established households in Lodi that do not have internet access. They didn't have it when their kids were in school. They don't have it now, and they have absolutely no interest in getting it. But you get them angry enough, they will show up at the polls. If they think this is going to impact their taxes, they will show up at the polls.
So do you have a contact with the funds?
Shelley probably does.
Okay.
Like I'm sure we do in the district
Or
office.
just look,
It's not a section people read.
I'm sorry,
If you put
It's okay.
something in the back, no one's gonna read that in the back, in the GA Times. I mean, for those times, sorry.
Has this been sent out to the local libraries, since we do have 3 that are very good about putting out communication to community members?
That's a great question. No, that is not something I had thought of until hearing it this evening.
So
I want
go to
40 copies.
I'll bring them to you tomorrow.
So they also need to go to into
Yep, I'm actually at I'm at the Old Library this week, I think. But I can get you guys all copies. That's a great idea. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the fact that you pursued this.
But we actually pushed back on it pretty hard.
Yeah, we did.
To start with, the first proposal was, the tax impact was a big deal for us, even when Mr. Zelinski was here. We all said no. It was still there, right? And, we said, he pretty much told us, don't say yes until it says no impact.
Yeah. Well, and even over the summer, we got it down to closer to where it needed to be, and honestly, like, just before Thanksgiving, I met with this team, and it was only going to be this campus. Interlaken was not going to be involved. I was like our community, is recognizable by this building, but it also wasn't fair for this building to just keep getting, right? The Interlaken building, has just as many students as this building does. They're just about split. So they came back and they said, they brought us the numbers. I actually thought it was only the numbers for this. And then they're like, oh, here's for the whole project back again. And the numbers lined up where they needed to be. So, there was a lot of saying no, a lot of almost walking away, respectfully, of course, but.
But if this goes through here, this can be used as a template for all of those other school systems in the North Country that have declining enrollment and older buildings and stuff that is about to fail.
Yeah.
So this could do many things, many positive things for South Seneca in terms of giving the state a way to push their clean green. And, all everybody ever hears is electric buses, which in the North Country is the worst. You have to be, area specific. But something like this that could be rolled in and pick up ancillary funding that no one would think of to look at in state education.
That's actually a really great point. Part of our contract with NYSERDA is that together we have deliverables which are status updates. It could be future presentations. It is to that we are going to be, one of the
The
poster
poster boys.
districts, yeah.
It certainly doesn't hurt the district's, it doesn't hurt the district's reputation to be the demonstration project for this at all. And it's like you said, you're not gonna be able to, you're not gonna get this package. I mean, somebody says, well, maybe we should wait. It's like, you're not gonna get this package again.
No, this is a one and done.
Yeah.
You take it now or it never comes back.
Well,
And they already started to change the rules.
Yeah.
So next year, this will be.
Exactly.
And I think that also has to go out and be forced in whatever material, handwritten, written material you do on any social media. You need to get this through people's heads, that this is a special deal and that you fought back, that there was pushback, and the state reacted to that pushback and was willing to work, because again, you know, you're a small school district. There are other small school districts who feel that they're being ignored by the state. So it works for us and it works for wherever they send you.
So the first round of funding for this program from NYSERDA, all the money went downstate. And Hannah Morgan and Matt Grisling and NYSERDA are the directors of the program. And I left them a message that was a little scathing. I said, hey, I'd like a post-mortem to, you know, just tell me where we went wrong, right? And we made them feel pretty guilty that the money went all downstate. Like, hey, why don't we help out some rural schools? And not for nothing, we're burning a ton of oil up here.
Yeah.
And
We use 100,000 gallons, well, we budget for 100,000 gallons a year, and our latest rate was like $2.60. So you guys can do the math on that.
Yeah, it's a huge impact on the budget. You could hire a couple of other teachers.
so the second round of funding, they opened it up. Some of our suggestions, Hunt and Train suggestions about having funding to help design the project up front, so we get test wells and do those kinds of things to make it affordable for the district. Those were all changes that came out of our conversations with NYSERDA to help make this project work better. Hunt and Train have been working on this since before 2023 with NYSERDA, trying to get this to an optimal point, and we've got a few customers that are that can reap the benefits from it. It's, like I said, originally when I first talked to Kyle and Miguel, like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get this kind of money for almost $4 million from NYSERDA alone to do a project like this. So.
It's going to come down to your present, how you can visually get it to these people over the next 10 days so that they are motivated to skip Jeopardy and press play.
Keep in mind though, that if they don't come, it's a yes vote.
I know.
So,
But you want to see something over 5% of your people show up and vote. Because that, again, it's another data set that you can take on your roadshow. That this is in a town that, or a school system, school district that can't get people out to vote for a budget. We got people out to vote for this.
Are you sending anything home with students about the vote and the time?
We're going to be doing some student presentations, but we can send it home with them too.
I would.
we're not going to look
We
at it.
students yet, you know.
We use Parents Square, like, the stuff that comes home, we just.
We have the menu.
Menu,
Well, as someone who was on shared decision-making last year, we talked about the communication aspect, about how South Seneca needs to really focus on getting things out to the community, not just parents. So hitting those libraries, making sure that you have things in the shopper are just a few of the ways that we talked about. So I think that's something we need to continue discussing. And
You need to figure out how to get it on the front page of the Finger Lakes Times.
like to do.
The other spot that we were going to be presenting was to the staff of the schools. So we'll be doing a presentation next week to the elementary and also to the high school, middle school, so at least getting.
Are they open to the public?
They'll be after school, it could be.
Is there a way within the Independence Day for, let's say, Independence Day, Monday,
It has to be in by 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon to come out next week. So they can make add changes.
no, but you're saying you're doing it this week.
No, it's next week.
Next week?
Next week, Wednesday, Thursday. They're going to be, they're afternoon, one will be at 2:35, one will be at 3:45.
Okay, maybe, could you put something in then that it's open to the public also?
Yeah.
The Thursday one, probably. The Wednesday one would probably be at the same time as the reading, but,
Yeah.
the Thursday potentially.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
putting this together, and thank you, Kyle, for pursuing it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming.